Hello future me and other broadcast soundy people. This is a quick video to show how to use the new Blackmagic Hyperdeck HD and control it from Pro Tools as a master with the Blackmagic slaving to it via machine control. To get this to work, you're going to need a Sync HD, which is there, a Pro Tools HDX system obviously. And how it's all connected together is we've got a 9-pin serial cable in the back of the Sync HD, output 1, that's going into the deck 9-pin control on the Hyperdeck HD. It's not a fancy serial cable, it's just a standard 1-to-1 pin-out wiring Sony 9-pin cable. Now the key thing is, in order to get this to work correctly, both devices need video reference inputs, so you can't run Pro Tools off of word clock. You'll need to run it off of video reference, and you'll need to stick video reference into this as well. So in this case we've got video reference coming from the scanner, which is there, going into Rosenthal nanosyncs, and that is DAing out some feeds into that and that. Within the menu section of the Blackmagic, I'll just focus that a little bit, if you go over to setup on the far right, you'll need to make sure that the timecode input set to external, and obviously you'll be recording timecode coming into the dedicated timecode input on the back here, which that will lock to when you record. And the output needs to be set to clip, not timeline. So clip will mean that when you play, it'll show the timecode of the original clip recorded off the external input, rather than the clip length duration. It feels like it should be the other way around really. It shouldn't be clip, it should be timeline, but whatever, there you go. Scroll down, reference source will need to be external, and lastly the remote will need to be switched on. You can set that there, or alternatively on the left there's a remote button, so you can trigger machine control remote on and off from there. So pretty straightforward really. And then over on the Pro Tools side of things, you need to go into setup and peripherals, and under machine control, if you want to use Pro Tools as the master, you set the 9-pin machine control deck control here. There's your port, serial port output 1. And the Blackmagic Hyperdeck presents itself as a BVW75 Sony emulation. So of all the drop-down menus, that's the one you want, BVW75. And then to get that to work otherwise, you right-click the online controller, put the machine online, and then under session setup, you want your positional reference to be set to serial timecode rather than your LTC incoming. If you'd like to put any offsets in terms of, for example here, where our sound is running ahead of the video's output feed and they're correcting it next door, but obviously we don't have it corrected in here, so you can put an offset in here on the 9-pin. You might just want to unlink that, the external timecode offset, so that you're not recording in with your timecode offset just playing out. So you can set a 9-pin there, so you can see there I've put a 5-frame delay to push the audio back by 5 seconds. And what's the other thing? Another very important thing actually to get this to work, if you go into setup and preferences and go down to synchronization on the far right, you need to make sure that machine follows edit insertion is switched on and it's set to a non-linear device. You can control a Blackmagic Hyperdeck, use it as a linear device, but it doesn't work via a Sync HD. That will only work if you plug a USB RS422 interface in. For whatever reason, the Sync HD will only control a non-linear device. Luckily in our case, where we want to cue music from further up and down the timeline, it's useful for that. You want non-linear transport error suppression to be switched off. I think it's switched on by default. This will just ensure that it actually goes into play when you press play. And machine cues intelligently is quite useful if you've got a load of individual clips on your Hyperdeck that you've recorded previously. I've got some on here, I think I've formatted it. Actually, no, I haven't. Anyway, it means that as you shuttle backwards and forwards on the Pro Tools timeline, it'll quickly skip back and forth between clips on the Hyperdeck, which is useful just for quickly queuing up things. So I put that on, and that seems to be quite reliable. Hit OK, and then right-click your synchronization. Make sure that the online equals is set to machine, and that's enabled. Generate your LTC and put it into online, and hopefully, if I cue myself to somewhere over here, the Blackmagic will scroll back, and if I hit play, in an ideal world, It has a hissy fit the first time because you've just queued it up. These things aren't completely elegant, but it's not bad. And there we go. We're in play. And then you can hit stop and it stops. You can shuttle forward on the Pro Tools timeline somewhere else and it's queued it up already, and I hit play on Pro Tools and there it is. And it locks up pretty fast, it's not too bad really. Now one really boring thing is now to go back into live mode. The Blackmagic Hyperdeck doesn't output linear time code when it's not in record, frustratingly. So if you put Pro Tools into online, taking that off, taking the LTC off, it won't work, frustratingly. So it's a bit long-winded to switch back to live mode. You've got to come out of online, obviously, and frustratingly you need to take the machine offline on the right-click interface there, so untick that, go back into setup session, and change the serial timecode back to LTC. Just a bit annoying. And then when you put it back into online mode, hopefully, we're back here at 10:01, which is our current time of day. So it's not the most elegant thing of all time, but it does mean that you can finally, after how many years, control a digital hyperdeck or deck machine from Pro Tools rather than the other way around. So good stuff.